Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the Sun square or opposition Chiron in Synastry. Now, first off, the basic character, which is the Sun, and how the Chiron person may help and heal others may be in conflict, and the Sun person may have difficulty focusing on the Chiron person's suffering of emotional, even physical wounds. If this is a connection, like a in whole, like a house relationship where you're talking about a significant other, marriage scenario or family members, it can be difficult because the Chiron person may see the Sun person as just overly, engrossed in their own activities and oblivious to his or her suffering or problems they may be going through. If the Chiron is in a person has their Chiron in Scorpio, maybe issues, sometimes of a psychological nature. It might be something of a sexual nature, or something with just matters connected with support or control in their life. Now, the thing about this too is the Chiron person may have trouble helping the Sun person, get what he or she wants in their life. They may not have really the interest, or whether it's the Sun person not listening to the Chiron individual. The Chiron person is offering some kind of support to help the Sun individual in his or her life, or attain what the Sun person wants. Remember, the Sun is connected with our basic wants, and it's the life of the person. And the Sun also has a connection, with the physical body. Yes, the ascendant is what dominates the appearance and physical body, but the Sun plays a role in that as well. So when you have the Sun in adverse aspect to Chiron, you're basically, these two people may not be, really attentive or really, focusing on each other's, if there's anything of a physical nature, these two people may not be, often may not be there for each other, sadly. Now, the thing, about this, Synastry aspect as well, is that the Chiron individual again may see the Sun person as about self-aggrandizement, about could be a little egocentric, and just more concerned with his or her own life, and may not Sun person again may not be there often to put that attention on the Chiron person's issues that he or she may be going through. Um, and this could cause, the Sun person may be exasperated at the Chiron person, because the Chiron person may be perceived by the Sun individual as someone that might be an excessive burden. The Chiron person may be burdening the Sun person with his or her own, difficulties and trauma, physical and emotional, or physical or emotional suffering that the person is going through and may be going through. Um, the thing is, if you're looking at the Sun person's, actions may actually could cause or exacerbate, the Chiron person's suffering. Um, the thing about this too is, the Sun person, let's say if the Sun person has a better life, at least by perception from the Chiron person, it might cause more issues if there's any, depleted self-worth or self-esteem that the Chiron person is going through. It might make it worse. Another thing is, if this could, if this, now another thing too, is that if the Sun person um, really is, well, let's say if they're in, a position of authority over the Chiron person, it might, the Chiron person, may not, there might be a situation where the Chiron persons, they're physical, emotional suffering, or dealing with their deepest wound, whatever it might be, might conflict with them. And the Chiron person may not always be there as a subordinate worker if that's the situation. If the Sun person is in a position of authority over the Chiron individual and the Chiron person, say, is in a subordinate role, that Chiron person may be one that might call out more often than the Sun person would really like, because they might be attending to their own suffering and not be there for the Sun person. Now, as I've stated in previous videos, in my earlier natal chart videos, that you never isolate any single one astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person astrologically speaking based on that alone, because the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, not just one. And the same applies for synastry aspects, because one synastry aspect does not make a relationship good or bad, for better or worse. And the thing is, in most synastry charts, you're going to have a plethora of aspects between person A and person B. And the thing is, you got to look at all the aspects when you're delineating compatibility in a relationship between the two people. Now this naturally, this aspect is adverse, and it's not one in which there'll be a abundance of support shown between the two people. And of physical nature, I would say, especially since the Sun has a connection with the physical body, Chiron can be about physical suffering. But the thing about this, though, is it can be offset by other positive aspects, synastry aspects in the chart. Now, let's say you take two people, that have this synastry aspect in their chart. They have the Sun square or opposite Chiron in synastry. But let's say that, Chiron, let's say if Chiron is sextile or trine Chiron in synastry, those people, that could show two people that could be, mutually help each other very well with their suffering, emotional, physical suffering, deepest wounds. That could offset, this to some degree, the Sun square opposite Chiron in synastry. Or let's say that you have the Sun square opposite Chiron in synastry, but you also have, the Sun person's ascendant, let's say, that sextiles or trines the Chiron person's Chiron. Then the Chiron person might be a little bit more attentive to, and if there's anything physical that the person is dealing with, the Sun person's dealing with, or in that case, the ascendant person is dealing with, the Chiron person may be more apt to help him or her in those matters. So it really, you have to look at all the synastry aspects when you're, delineating compatibility between person A and person B. And another way, just, this aspect may manifest the Sun square or opposite Chiron in synastry. Remember, the Sun is about our creative energy and expression. So the thing is, the Sun person may also be so involved with what they're doing creatively or how they're shining, that they might not be there for the Chiron person to help him or her in terms of what they're going through, as far as whether it's general emotional, physical suffering, the deepest wound. It could be even in matters the Chiron person may want to help and heal others. So anyway, people, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.